You think you know what zero RB is. You think you have the stomach for it. I promise you, you don't. The team you are about to watch get drafted is either going to piss you off or melt your face off. I don't see anything in between. It's been 12 years since my guest, Shawn Siegele, penned the original zero RB column on RotoViz. And today, we push the strategy to an insane extreme. I'm Pete Overzet. This is the Deposit Kingdom, and here is a draft with my favorite analyst in the entire fantasy industry. Shawn Siegele, you have long been a champion of zero RB, so I have to ask, what is your favorite structure in current Best Ball Mania drafts?
Well, I mean, it's probably that, but I put down chaos because I think that this is the most fun year to draft. Right? We've got all of these supposedly healthy veterans. We've got all of these elite rookie backs. People have finally started to make some adjustments that make all structures really work. I mean, I think that you want to draft very aggressively with a thesis that probably develops obviously over your first 3 or 4 picks. But once that starts to come into play, you want to really push whatever the draft has given you and try to benefit from how crazy and exciting this season's going to be.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I did a video on the channel last week where I looked at the 5 previous winners of Best Ball Mania and looking at their structures. And it wasn't until after the fact I kind of realized maybe a pattern. We had, a 3 running back build, 1 BBM 1, followed by 2 double running back starts in BBM 2 and 3. We had the zero RB team take it in 4. And then last year was a really balanced build. It's like almost seeing like the progression of like those early running back teams taking advantage of just efficiencies in the market and people's understanding of best ball, and then moving to a spot where it's like you need zero B, something with more anti-fragility, or you need the really balanced build to have ceiling at every position to take it down. And that makes sense that you're saying, yes, zero RB or this more chaotic, try to build the best possible team that's not necessarily relying on a specific structure. I just thought that was kind of interesting. So I will ask here though, your favorite player target in drafts right now. You obviously write up a ton of priority targets over on RotoViz, but if you had to, select 1 or 2 here to rise above the rest, who would it be?
Well, this is kind of a weird one because it's hard to have really a priority target in the first, say, 15, 16, 17 picks. But I mean, Brian Thomas, probably, right? You think about the issues that so many of the other top guys have. And I've had Malik Neighbors ranked really high throughout. You think about Brian Thomas and what he's done, Malik Neighbors and what he's done. It's pretty easy to say Malik Neighbors is the Jamar Chase to Thomas being like a T. Higgins. The Jaguars are not dealing with the offensive issues that the Giants are. And Brian Thomas is not as flagrantly injured as Neighbors is. I mean, those are the 2 guys who stand out. The players who, outside of just Jamar Chase himself, who would come through and put up the type of performance that Chase put up last season. One of them has some red flags. The other one really doesn't right now.
Is there any concern if Travis Hunter is really, really good that there could almost be kind of a flippening there? And it's like Brian Thomas is more the T. Higgins to say Travis Hunter's Jamar Chase, or does that seem too far-fetched from what you've seen from BTJ?
If that turns out to be the case, then basically what you want is to select a lot of Trevor Lawrence and not worry about maybe some of the things in his profile. I guess I just don't think so, right? I do think Hunter's going to be involved. I think it's going to help Thomas in that there's going to be no way to shut off the volume and there's going to be no way to shut off the efficiency. Because if you do what's necessary to stop Brian Thomas, then these other guys are going to kill you. And that includes Bashal Tutin, who already looks like Jamal Charles.
Love it. How about your favorite stack? I know when we were drafting a ton of teams on Best Ball Breakfast over the past couple years, we were always looking to set up some of those big Week 17 game stacks, saying if we can get a team to the finals, how do we fully take advantage of that? Anything catching your eye in 2025?
There are a few fun ones, I think, where, not that these are necessarily unique, but you can play them in a way that maybe they're slightly less played than some other things, but still extremely high upside. Jameson Williams, so exciting. It sounds like they want to involve him even more, and that's easier said than done when you have Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta. But if you play him and you have Jordan Addison off of him, whose price is only kept in check by that suspension. After he gets eligible, he's just going to tear the field apart every week. And then if you go with McCarthy and have the big sort of upside play from that, then I think that would be kind of the league winning way to do it. Rashad Bateman was someone I was extremely skeptical of last year, in part because I had really liked him in the past. And then these first round guys who fail, they very rarely come through and be anything at all. And then obviously just emotionally, you've been burned, all of those types of things. But you watch what he did over the second half of last season, and you're like, a tiny little step from that, and he should just be going 3 or 4 rounds early regardless. But even if he doesn't, you just have the best ball element of the vertical score. The Baltimore Ravens, that seem like they're going to score a ton. That's, I think, the only way to really play Lamar Jackson in a stack that is interesting. The hybrid QBs I really like to play without. But if you put them also then with either Reed or Golden, that's fun. And then I don't think it'd be surprising to anybody that I like to play Worthy with Bo Nix and Troy Franklin.
And I do notice a very specific theme with those stacks, which I absolutely love, because we have lots of conversations about bringbacks, about, game stacks and their viability. But the players you're doing them with play into the specific thesis of week 17, which is big splash plays that speed up the game. And we saw that last year, week 17. It was Marvin Mims speeding up the game against the Bengals, and then T. Higgins goes off and Burrow goes off. Like, that's what dreams are made of. And all of these guys, Jamison Williams, Jordan Addison, Reed, Golden, Bateman, Worthy, Franklin, like all of those guys are speedsters capable of 60-yard touchdowns. So I love that. Not only are you focusing on week 17 correlation, but you're doing it with the players that can actually do what we want, which is send these games into the nutty zone. All right, it feels almost silly asking you this question because you do such a good job of kind of thinking outside the box, not getting tethered to, ADP or groupthink. But I will ask you your favorite, quote unquote, gal brain idea or an unconventional idea that you like to execute in 2025 drafts.
So I don't know that I've done this a ton, but I certainly thought it would be fun to try it with you. Looking at where we are right now and how people have come to this understanding that you need to not have holes. When you put together a best ball lineup, you need to not have too many zeros. I think pushing that double elite tight end with an elite QB, Jake did a great simulation for us last year, saying that if you got the 6 dominant wide receivers, you could stop there. And you probably should. Then 2024 had a very unique type of outcome with all of the running backs staying healthy. You didn't have great performances necessarily from some of the top wide receivers. What I found with my lineups is I was still very happy with the progression through the season on these 6 wide receiver lineups. Now, part of it is that you're going to get bailed out a little bit by a high Bowers and Chase Brown exposure, because that was a combination that would help pull you through maybe other problems that your build had, that your team had. But I think if you put all of those things together and then you hit on some of these late running backs, you're talking about a team with elite tight ends, elite quarterbacks, all of these wide receivers. And then, if the running backs hit, it's not that other people can't beat you. There are going to be other good teams in such massive tournaments, but your team's going to be very, very good.
And before we hop into a draft here, let me know your favorite 18th round low-owned dart, maybe guys that aren't getting drafted in every single contest, your quintessential under the radar sleeper here.
Well, Jalen Reynolds was tackled by the kicker, which was fortunate, because if he takes that all the way back, then it probably moves things more. There's still so much uncertainty about that Rice suspension, when it's going to happen, how big it's going to be. The Chiefs liked him when they drafted him, and I don't think they were really planning to draft a receiver. And then they've been surprised at how good he was in camp. So you put those two things together, you could get some impact. Troy Franklin, a guy who I'm kind of checking some of these things that show up in my research against like Next Gen, for example, and you go back and look at their receiver rankings from last year, and they're like, Troy Franklin was awesome. He should have gone earlier. And you're like, well, he didn't go early, and then he wasn't that great. Now he looks like he's ready to break out. It's tricky because Pat Bryant also looks good, because it now appears that Marvin Mims will take the step forward. And the Denver Broncos look like they're going to be a real threat to the Chiefs. The other one that is interesting, because Corum has carried the ball earlier in these preseason games, but when you go and check on the practice reports from the Rams, Jarquez Hunter, you get a ton of these reports basically saying he's the best team right away, and that he is going to play a ton. He's going to play by the goal line. He's the best pass catcher. And like, that seems like someone you should draft, right? And he's one of the guys I loved before all this started. So now that he's basically free, you're like, I got to keep getting some shares there.
Love it. Well, I'm going to hop us in a Best Ball Mania draft right now. We're going to compete for $2 million. This is a real treat for us, because normally when we draft these, they have been on a live stream for my channel where, you know, we have to deal with snipers, the ranks, everything we're talking about, people wanting to draft like us. But Shawn, this looks like it could be awesome because not only do we have the 101, there's only 2 badges in here, 3 badges. Typically all my drafts have all the red badges, all the sharks who play on Underdog. So I'm very excited to build here. You know, 101, you do have chase like everyone else. I guess it can get a little tricky in that the 2-3 turn maybe isn't as attractive as when you pick on the backside of the board and are able to get 2 of those like top 16, 17 players you mentioned there. But where does your mind start going here from the 101 as far as kind of mapping out an early draft plan?
From the 101, that might be the only spot where you're like, drafting Brian Thomas here would be a little silly.
I know, which is 102. I feel like we probably could have done it. And I do always like to try to get our green check marks over here and complete the mission. I still will do it if you want, but I'm also so down to get another Jamar Chase team.
Let's get Chase here.
Yeah.
I do hope that you talk about the 2-3 turn, and there are a lot of ways in which it's not very good. But for what we discussed a little bit there with the elite tight end, the elite QB, and seeing if we can pair some of those elements, the Trey McBride, Lamar Jackson turn would set us up to really be off to the races.
Typically, McBride should be there. Lamar, you never know in these drafts, especially tough. That's kind of the flip side of the kind of the badge coin is a lot of times you will see the quarterbacks go earlier in these types of rooms. That being said, there's a decent amount of options there. It's hard to imagine all of those elite quarterbacks would be gone. Is Lamar Jackson kind of head and shoulders your QB1, or do you sometimes wonder if Jaden Daniels should be there as well?
Well, I've got those guys gapped from Josh Allen. At this point, it seems like it has to be Lamar, and maybe by a mile. The Commanders are in a transitional period where they're going to be very good this year, but you're really looking at it and saying 2026, 2027, they may be the best team in football, in part because they just will never punt. That's how good Jaden Daniels will be. It doesn't really matter what else you have going on if you just don't punt. Part of the thesis there is that he's such a better passer than Jackson and Allen and Hurts. To a certain extent, or at a certain point, your teammates can neutralize some of your gifts there.
All right, Shawn, we do get, you want to do the McBride Lamar Jackson at this 2-3 turn?
Let's do it.
I think this sets us up to execute the build you outlined at the top of the show. I did toss Jonathan Taylor there in the queue. I know you like him, obviously mentioned, in conjunction with Brian Thomas. Do you like him standalone or as part of the thesis, kind of that week 17 correlation?
I think in best ball, it's so fun to think about drafting them together, whether you would, one of the two, you're obviously going to have to pull up a little bit to do that. And I've done several articles this season looking at the influence of the big plays and how it just is almost incumbent upon you to draft big play running backs in 2025. There's a best ball element to that too, where the big score is going to be very helpful for you in terms of how the lineups work out. At least as we're recording, Pete, I'm under the impression that the Colts have not released a starting QB. Taylor is someone where I think it works both ways, right? Now, maybe Anthony Richardson, even if he wins the job, one of my themes this year with the Colts has been that, yes, I don't think Anthony Richardson should win the job. He is a problem, but if he plays well enough to win the job, then maybe some of the concerns are eliminated. And then you have this dual threat QB that can do for Taylor what we saw with Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley last season. Taylor's probably a similar back. I mean, you think back to his 2021 campaign, you think back to the last 3 games of last year where he absolutely exploded. He's got, even better long speed, arguably, than those guys. They're in the mix. I mean, he would be there with Barkley. But if you get the other way, then you have the potential for the receiving and you get the more well-rounded workload. I think that he's a winner either way. He's more insulated than the receivers are. We didn't exactly get that last season, but I don't know that not getting it last season means that we're definitely going to. I think that's probably the wrong way to look at it, especially at the price that he's not priced as though it worked last year. So that also works out very well for drafters.
I said there's no way Kittle comes back. I mean, if you want to do the double tight end thing, you mentioned the fallers. Is that something you'd consider here?
Exactly. Definitely. Let's do that.
Wow. I have not seen Kittle fall here in a long, long time. What do you like to do with this second pick?
Well, the Draft is going to be really risky that we put together. We talked about some Chief stuff. I don't know if Rashee Rice is the best for that with all of the other risks. If we're going to rely on the receivers, I don't know how good Hunter is. Devontae Smith is just always undervalued. I mean, I probably would go that direction, but yeah, I don't have a strong preference.
Yeah, I did give Devontae Smith. I know you mentioned Rashad Bateman as kind of part of your Lamar Jackson stack. You did have, Flowers as a fair value there. Was just Flowers. Do you just prefer to play it through Bateman right now?
With the difference in price and Bateman's profile probably being better for best ball, and just Flowers probably can't break out from the level that he is with the way that their offense works, but Bateman possibly could.
I mean, I would be perfectly okay with an Addison Reed click here, unless there's something else you would want to take advantage of.
I mean, that would be my pretty strong preference to have those two guys if we can get.
Yeah, and I do see you, obviously you have Addison as your top ranking value here. Reed, you're a little bit lower on. I assume this is kind of, the walking boot, all of that stuff, because otherwise I'm guessing you had him up here higher.
I did. I'm just trying to balance my enthusiasm with a little bit of restraint when you have these injured players.
No running backs. We got our 0 RB build, just like we set out to do. Mentioned that double elite tight end, got our elite quarterback. And now we can see how we want to play this 8-9 turn. Anything come to mind for you here? Do we pull the trigger on our first running backs?
If we have anybody that jumps out as a huge value to you or a must select, I would definitely do it. The name that is about a full round later, and that's, again, the little bit of trickiness of having the 101, but certainly not something you can ever complain about when you have Jamar Chase, is that Charbonnet is on the opposite side, at least right now. We'll see if over the next week he comes up to the top of 9. If we're looking at this as Bateman, because Bateman probably won't come back and we have other guys at 10, 11 that we want, then it could be Bateman plus potentially Burden. It could be Charbonnet and Bateman, or Michael Pittman is at least vaguely interesting. I've always had a little bit of trouble with him, but I also don't understand why he is discounted to the point that he is at now. And in some ways, he's not he's not the vertical type of player that we talked about in the intro. He doesn't do as much for us. The scoring track record, I mean, how bad would the offense have to be for him not to be an easy win right there? I
kind of like it too, because the Bateman Pittman stuff really does help us cover kind of the Reed and Addison issues we talked about at the very start of the season. And it would really just be, like you said, and we do go with Pittman and Bateman here. Tracy was a slight faller. We know he's going to get off to a fast start, with Scatabo kind of having a non-existent preseason to earn the coach's trust. So if we don't think like some of the bets we can make at running back coming back at 120 are that different than the Tracy and Charbonnet stuff, I kind of love just making this build work through the wide receivers in the way we wanted to. All right, so we have our 1 quarterback. We got our double elite tight end. We got our 6 wide receivers. We're going to be taking a second quarterback at some time, but is this where we go running backs the rest of the way? Oh, did I lose you, Shawn? All right, Shawn is going to time out. I'm going to try to get his top 2 running backs here. The first being Scatabo at 120. Are you back, Shawn?
Yeah. I have Tootin as the other kind of big name.
Let's do it.
It's my newest update here.
Okay, I'm glad that we got that in. Would those have been your 2 picks? Like, would it have been Scatabo and Tootin there?
Those were the 2 I had listed for us in round 10. The 11 was Tootin or Krosky Merritt.
Can you talk a little bit about, Scatabo and Tootin? Obviously, Scatabo kind of dealing with some of the kind of injury concerns right now. Tootin in this kind of wide open, ambiguous backfield with the Jags. Both of them kind of parallels in being top of the 4th round type picks. Any thoughts on those guys?
I was looking up right before we drafted. The latest news was that Scatabo is going to miss week 1, but then you dive into it and it's basically just people saying they have no idea. He's so good and his price is being held in check here by the injury. I think when you're looking for massive production out of these late running backs, I mean, he's the most likely guy, he and Tootin, the most likely guys to give you massive production. And then again, Bill or JCM, again, the potential for massive production. And I think that's the case with Jaden Blue as well, where, I mean, they really came back swinging. And maybe Dylan Sampson with the most recent news. I mean, all three of those guys. Do you have a preference between two of those three? Blue is maybe a little bit trickier with the receptions.
I've been doing Blue over Sampson right now just to kind of see how this Judkins stuff shakes out, and because I have a lot of super cheap Sampson, but I'm good with either. Who's your preference for this build? I want to get your strong lean here.
Let's go Blue.
Okay, so we'll get the 4 rookie start here. We do get Bill to come back to us, which is awesome here. Pick 144. He's definitely going higher in some rooms today and will be in the subsequent days. We get Jaden Blue. One thing to kind of map out, do you have any thoughts on when we would take our second quarterback? Obviously, we miss out on like Love. A lot of the other stacking options are gone. Or is it with Lamar that you're kind of content really pushing it?
Probably pushing it, but how do you like to play it in this range here? What would be your brainstorm on how we wrap the QB part together?
I mean, at this point, looking at your stuff here, like I do always like to look for a little bit of correlation. I'm trying to think, if we could do like a Matthew Stafford, Jarquez Hunter type thing. He was back at practice today, but I also think it's just perfectly viable at this point with no Geno, no Cam Ward falling, to just get 2 more of our targets. Keaton Mitchell potentially. I want Shipley, you mentioned. I want you to kind of talk me through this.
Well, I think we want to take the huge risk. I think we want to take Mitchell and Shipley right here.
Yeah, I think, Mitchell on a Lamar Jackson team, always love getting those backup running backs paired with the quarterback as a way to really supercharge it. Like if Henry goes down, not only are they throwing more, but then you're getting Mitchell into an expanded role. And then we'll get our guy Shipley here as our RB6. And people are screaming at home right now. They're saying you're going to score 0 points at running back, at the start of the season. How are we going to make this work, Shawn, as we just took our 6th straight running back?
Possible it will score 0, but you think about this team. Keaton Mitchell is Chris Johnson 2.0. Will Shipley is the best handcuff in football. Jaden Blue is easily the best back on the Dallas Cowboys. It sounds like Krosky Merritt is going to be the Commanders starter, and the Commanders are going to never punt. You think about what the scoring options are for a team like that. Bashal Tutin is playing for this Jaguars offense that looks like it will be explosive. We talked about that in the intro. And I mean, that dude is faster than the other guys. He has, the gap between Bashal Tutin and Tank Bigsby and the current version, sadly, of Travis Etienne is the gap between like those guys and me. So at some point he's going to score points. And then you have Scatterbo, who's like the perfect high value touch machine. In some ways it's weird to draft maybe the weakest guy first. And that's where ADP can do some weird things. I mean, maybe that's, going back and looking at it, it's like, we should have drafted the quarterback there.
Yeah, looking back at it, Jordan Love was there. Would that have been the way to play that for you, or who would have been kind of the quarterback that you would have liked there in hindsight if you did swap that?
I think we could do it with Love. I think we could also have done whoever the random best quarterback that we preferred there and put one of their pieces in at the end.
So we are down kind of to the true dart throw territory. What are you thinking here at this 16-17 turn?
This is too gross to even say, but did Richardson go?
No, I don't think he did. No, he just did. Literally 1 pick before.
I mean, and it's on way too. Having him would be the thing that kills Michael Pittman. So you're like, that doesn't even really fit together.
You want Hunter or Giddens?
Yeah. How many running backs are you going to be comfortable going with here?
I'm comfortable with as many as you want. Who do you want to be our second quarterback here?
I'm thinking Jackson Dart.
Should we just lock him up so we get that?
Yeah, let's do that.
I think we would feel like if he goes and then, we just have no viable options late, that feels unfortunate. Whereas like I do like Giddens, but I think we're going to be able to find a running back or that last wide receiver we really like there. So here's the team so far after a crazy string of running back picks. We did 7 of them in a row. We got Lamar Jackson and Jackson Dart at quarterback. Scatterbo, who we do pair with Jackson Dart, which is kind of nice there to have some team rookie correlation. Bashal Tutin, Bill as I'm supposed to say, Jaden Blue, Keaton Mitchell, Will Shipley, and Jarquez Hunter, who you mentioned is one of your sleepers, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Jordan Addison, Jaden Reed, Rashad Bateman, Michael Pittman Jr., and our double elite tight end, Trey McBride and George Kittle. What do you think for this last pick? We have the 2-7-6-2. Do you think getting an 8th running back or getting our Franklin or Royals as our 7th wide receiver? Where are you kind of leaning there?
With taking the suspended receiver and the injured receiver, it might make sense to go back to the Royals or Franklin here. In terms of thinking through those guys and this team, do you have a preference there? It's also, not impossible that we would go with, I don't know, it'd be gross to take Lamar Jackson and end up with 3 QBs, but Daniel Jones, if he wins the job, would go with Pittman.
That is true. Yeah. And it's just like every single week, things look dicier and dicier for Richardson, even though they clearly want to make that happen. Giddens also coming all the way back. He should not be available at 216. You mentioned the running back ADPs being soft, exhibit A here. So we're going to have about 20 seconds here, Shawn. I got Royals, Franklin, Daniel Jones, and Giddens in the queue. You tell me the click to land the plane.
So, real quick, how many games for Rashee Rice? How many is he out?
He's out 7 games.
Jalen Royals.
All right, there it is. I wanted to get one of your sleepers in. I have been getting my Troy Franklin exposure up here and now get a Jalen Royals share. This is an extremely fun team. I promise you the comments are going to say there's 0 chance this team makes it to the playoffs. But all I will say, Shawn, is watch the hell out if this team gets to the spread, because this is a glorious 0 RB team. This is like, you talked about 0 RB for years. This is like the most distilled version of 0 RB. You could put it in a capsule here. This is the final team. I want your thoughts. Lamar Jackson, Jackson Dart at quarterback, Cam Scatabo, Bashal Tootin, Bill, Jaden Blue, Keaton Mitchell, Will Shipley, Jarquez Hunter, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Jordan Addison, Jaden Reed, Rashad Bateman, Michael Pittman Jr., and Jalen Royals, Trey McBride, and George Kittle. How did we do, Shawn?
And this is probably the most fun team I've ever drafted. As soon as I saw your questions, I was like, Galaxy Brain, what can we do that would be crazier than what we just normally do? And it was this.
Well, Shawn, very much appreciate your time. When can people anticipate? I know you kind of did essentially the first kind of like sneak peek to the 0 RB list with your targets. It's kind of the quasi 0 RB list, but when is the official 0 RB countdown coming out?
So the big piece should be released in 3 stages. Hopefully Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, maybe Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this week. There will probably be an update later. As you mentioned, anybody who, is drafting tonight or something like that. I did have an early piece. I get so many requests for it every year, and it always does kind of panic me and or make me feel sad if anybody drafted ahead of time. So I did put out, sort of an early list this season, and have put out the priority targets pieces kind of through the year. Pete, instead of doing all of the research and then putting out the priority targets, I put the priority targets out early, and then the research came out in bits and pieces throughout the summer. So hopefully that method also worked for folks.
Beautiful, beautiful. Want to mention, you guys saw it up on the sidebar during the draft too, but if you guys are new to Underdog, they have a special going on right now. New customers put $5 in play. That could be a best ball draft. It could be a pick'em. You get $50 in bonus funds. And I am told this is in addition to the deposit match. So you can get up to $1,000 deposit match. Just use that promo code Pete. Take advantage of the new customers getting $5 and $50 in addition to the deposit match, and go out there and try to draft a 0 RB masterpiece like Shawn and I did today. And keep an eye out for all the videos on the channel here as we enter the home stretch. We're going to have the Best Ball Bros video. Shawn referenced the Truth Serum. I have 20 plus videos from my favorite personalities and analysts across the fantasy space sharing something that they needed liquid courage to get out there on film here for your guys' entertainment. Appreciate all of you. Subscribe, and we'll see you next time in the Deposit Kingdom.